widely assumed guilt here, but we should remind people he has been charged, but has not been convicted.
Peter, may I ask if there's any knowledge of the relationship between Nicole Simpson and the young man, Ron Goldman, who was also murdered? Mrs. Bruce Jenner, had told us that her friend Nicole had only known this young man for 2 weeks and that they were just friends. I wonder if the district attorney has further information as to why Mr. Simpson might possibly, if indeed he did do this, take this second life.
It would not be fair to Mr. Simpson for me to start talking about the evidence. He has not seen it. His lawyers have not seen it. It is still, hopefully, in the courtroom. That's when people will learn all the facts. Let me assure you and all of your viewers, I take the authority of district attorney very seriously. We do not abuse the power of district attorney. We only prosecute those cases where we believe the evidence warrants prosecution. I would not have brought this prosecution if I felt this evidence did not warrant it.
Mr. Garcetti, his lawyer said earlier this evening that they had never been given any clue to the status of the case, and they thought it would take a week. Can you explain what he meant by that?
I'm sorry, I was distracted. Would you answer the question?
Yeah, I said his lawyer said earlier this evening that they had never been given any clue to the status of the case, and they thought that your process would take about a week. What did he mean by that?
Well, he meant that we weren't telling them what the evidence was that we were uncovering when we were doing it. And that's true. We weren't. It is appropriate for us to share the evidence after we have brought the criminal charges, not before.
Overpass over the 405. It is crowded with people who are outside on the bridge.
We're going to go down now to this particular portion of Los Angeles freeway and talk to Chris Cahan, who's an ABC producer, who's in a vehicle there, not far from the Bronco, on a cellular telephone. Chris, go ahead.
Hi, how are you? Up south of us, about 10 miles, 5 miles or so near LAX, we were able to intercept the Bronco and the motorcade as it passed by. It passed, 25 yards in front of us, and we saw the driver, Al, I believe it is, driving the car, and it became a spectator sport. I mean, there were people running up onto the embankment, sort of cheering and waving as the car went by, almost as if it was a high-speed parade.
And where are you now, Chris?
We're coming up on the interchange of the Santa Monica Freeway and the San Diego Freeway, headed northbound.
So what is the clue that you can give us as to... Now, he's pulling off now. They've just pulled off a main highway. Judy Muller, help us here.
I can't tell yet.
Okay.
Looks like Santa Monica Freeway. Heading, I can't tell you yet. I take this all the time.
But look at all these people rushing up to the corner.
No,
This word has obviously spread. Look here, Judy, hang on. Look at all these people rushing, waving. There is an absolutely, utterly macabre nature to all this. Look at people rushing to the side of the road to...
They've been cheering him on, yelling,
Michael,
go, Juice, go.
How would they have known?
Al, go ahead, Al Michael.
Peter, if I'm not mistaken, he pulled off at Sunset Boulevard. I just need a little wider perspective here. But if he pulled off at Sunset, off the 405, he is on his way back toward Brentwood.
Which, of course, is where his wife's condominium was and where his house is, right?
That is Sunset. I believe that this is Sunset Boulevard. His house would be roughly 2 miles from where the vehicle is right now.
Peter,
Thank you, Al.
Peter, the love that so many people have, the fact that people are cheering him on. I mean, this, we can only imagine what this will say in the future in terms of trials, of juries. I mean, the feeling that no matter what has been said, there is still such love for this man.
Bigger perspective here.
I'm not sure it's Sunset, or if it is, It's very difficult to tell from this perspective.
All right, well, let's just all hang on for a second until we're absolutely sure we think we know where we're going. We don't leave people halfway around Los Angeles studio. I'll leave you and Al for a second to try to figure it out. What our viewers can most obviously see is that they are no longer being closely followed by an enormous phalanx of cops, though something is alerting people to turn over to the side.
That's Sunset Boulevard. They're passing the church on Salt Air.
Yep.
They are heading right into Brentwood now. They are in Brentwood. They are 2 blocks away from Nicole Simpson's condominium. This is my old neighborhood, so I know it well. Literally coming up on the block where he would turn left to her house.
Peter?
Go ahead, Al.
Peter, he's a little further than that from where Nicole is. Nicole's about 1.5 miles south. He appears to be headed in the direction of his home, which is north of Sunset Boulevard by about 3 blocks. He is going through the Brentwood district right now. I can't give you the precise location, but I would estimate he is about 1 mile from his home at this moment, westbound on Sunset.
At home, people watching us are seeing jumble of information sometimes at the bottom of the screen. That's the KTLA information as well. We're very grateful to KTLA Channel 5 in Los Angeles for providing this excellent helicopter view of this strange incident as it continues to unfold.
Peter, if he was heading for Nicole's house, he already passed the point where he'd make the left turn. So
heading towards his house now.
At this point, he's not headed toward Nicole's condominium. He's making a right turn. I assume that's up into Brentwood Park, and appears to be on the way to either his home or very close to his home.
Now you can see he's again followed rather closely by the police. There was a flurry of activity earlier at Nicole Simpson's condominium earlier today when a great many people thought that Simpson himself, O.J. Simpson, had gone there. There were all sorts of crowds around there. Someone had called 911, and that led to yet another of this quite astonishing episodes today, which have been on the perimeter of the central character here, O.J. Simpson, who was, as we said earlier today, in seclusion, in the company of his lawyer, at least 2 doctors, and of his friend Al Culling. He's now Judy, take it away.
Yes, he's turning into another street, and there is a crowd of people waiting there as though they were expecting him. I believe he's in his neighborhood Peter. Now with all the cars and all the media.
Peter, he's at his home. There's the satellite truck.
My goodness gracious.
He's come home after all of that. Well,
I'm going to have to ask our control room now whether or not we have facilities on the ground or are we still dependent on them in the air.
You can't see into this home from the ground, so this is the best view you could have. Now,
Somebody's gone up, been telling to get away. Do not know who that person is.
That's his son. That is his son, and the police have pulled him back.
Right. Thank you.
That's his eldest son, Jason, if we have correctly identified him.
This waiting is excruciating for everyone.
When many of the people in the press and the public, particularly in the press, had thought he had returned to his Brentwood estate last night, he had not. He had gone into seclusion in the San Fernando Valley in the home of a friend. And
Peter, he had been in seclusion.
This is the first time he's returned there.
Peter?
Go ahead, Al.
Peter, yes, he had been in seclusion at that home for 3 nights.
3 nights.
He had not been home, to the best of my knowledge, and I think I have very accurate information since Tuesday night.
But so we end here, perhaps not end, but so a 5-hour manhunt is reaching some kind of a conclusion here in the driveway of O.J. Simpson's own home. He, and we believe Al Cowlings, his friend, are in this Ford Bronco, which the police have traced in part through the license plate number and through a series of phone calls made on this cellular telephone in this vehicle.
No one in the police unit is getting out yet.
Just tell our stations around the country that though this most unusual edition of 2020 will come to an end shortly, we will stay on the air until this incident resolves itself.
Peter, the police could have gotten in front of him at some point, certainly when he turned off and stopped him, and it seems, you know, preferred to let him go to wherever his journey had taken him, which is here.
Whoever motioned the son away was vehement about it. I don't know if it was Al Cowlings or O.J., but it was clear that he wanted him nowhere near the car.
How many times in so many different parts of the world have we seen gunmen in vehicles surrounded by the police trying to resolve what in the final analysis is an unresolvable situation for the person in the car.
Sometimes waiting is the hardest thing, but the most productive thing.
The Los Angeles Police Department has this week, according to all press accounts, Judy, been extremely cautious in dealing with this case, in part because O.J. Simpson is such a national figure, in part because the department has not done as well as it had hoped to in other cases.
It's interesting. I talked to a deputy city attorney who tried the first case in 1989, and he said that based on his celebrity, the police really didn't have to rush their investigation. And in his words, he said, after all, where could he go? How could he ever get away? And I'm sure he's thinking twice about those words today. He got away at least for a day. But there was a feeling that they could take their time because O.J. Simpson was not at risk of fleeing. At least I think that was their thought.
Judy, can you hear me?
Yes.
There had been some speculation that also there was extra caution because of cases like the Menendez case where it was felt that perhaps action was not taken quick enough, or you had two hung juries, and they wanted to be very careful that they had all of the evidence that was possible to get before making the arrest. Is that something that you have heard out there?
I've heard it out there. I don't think you would, Gil Garcetti could probably respond to that, but I don't think you would have the attorney, the AG's office saying so. However, they don't need a mistake on something this high profile.
They've pursued him 50 miles on the Los Angeles freeways, and as you know, if you've been with us for a while, he has a cellular phone in that vehicle. So it is quite possible, as we have seen on other occasions, that the police and either Al Cowlings or O.J. Simpson himself will be able to negotiate with one another about what is to happen next. But it is just before 11 o'clock in the east, just before 8 o'clock in California, and O.J. Simpson has just pulled into the driveway of his own home, from which Al Michaels tells us he disappeared 3 days ago, and who has, in the interim, been charged with 2 counts of murder with special circumstances, implication of multiple murder for which there is no bail, and for which he is eligible for the death penalty. He has not been officially charged, and again, lest you've only recently joined us, we have heard from him today in the form of a very emotional, both up and down letter that was read by an old friend of his, in which he said, "Don't feel sorry for me, I've had a good life," denies any involvement in the murder of his wife, thanks his friends and his comrades and his teammates along the way who have been there for him, and asks us in the press to give his children some peace. There has not been much peace for anybody involved with this case in Los Angeles this week.
Peter, it's an interesting thing that we have forgotten to say it, but recently, but that there is a presumption of innocence, and even though he says he is innocent, we also presume that he is innocent, as do the courts. And with all of this media attention on this case this week, it needs to be repeated over and over again. I think that the man is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court. Sounds cliched, but worth repeating.
Again, I'm going to have to ask our control room now. Are we dependent on this helicopter? The answer is we are.
Can't help but wonder how many thousands of people are watching this, not just in Los Angeles, but around the country. I mean, it is, he's a national figure, and to many, a beloved figure. And there's a real-life drama happening in front of them.
Various friends and teammates this evening have been pleading for him publicly to give himself up. The first plea came from his lawyer. It was the very first thing out of his mouth when he gave a news conference in Los Angeles earlier today. Give yourself up to any nearest police official. It's been heard from his friends several times, and now here he is a little more than 2 miles from the murder scene with cop cars just pushing into the street behind him. And that's, I believe, a dog. She got a dog, Judy?
It is a dog, the only one allowed to approach the car so far.
Has he got a dog?
I'm not sure, but I do believe the dog is on the ground, so it must belong to somebody there.
It was a dog barking at the condominium of his former wife, just about 2 miles from this particular home, that first alerted people the other night to something untoward involving
Oh, here we get somebody coming out now.
Well, at the very least, we get a door open. That is Al Cowling.
Yes, it is Al Cowling, yes, Peter.
That is Al Cowling going over to talk to the police.
Remember that O.J. is reported to have a gun.
Again, it's a little after 11 o'clock in the east, a little after 8 o'clock in California. So particularly those of you in the east who've just joined us, we've come to the end of a 5-hour manhunt for O.J. Simpson by the Los Angeles police authorities. He described in an emotionally and physical state of high distress and anxiety, who was supposed to have given himself up to the authorities many hours ago, but who completely disappeared, and disappeared, as it turns out, with his friend Al Cowling, a friend from his days at the University of Southern California football days, and then at the Buffalo Bills. Al Cowling was one of the men keeping an eye on O.J. Simpson as his lawyers negotiated for his surrender with the Los Angeles police, and then in what was described to us as a 15-minute window, he and Cowling simply disappeared from the house while the lawyers, a doctor and a psychiatrist were upstairs. They disappeared downstairs. They have been traced, we are told, by the LAPD, partly by the license plate on this vehicle and partly by intercepting telephone calls made from the vehicle. Much of this is not confirmed by the police, but that's what we believe we know as of now.
Peter, do we have reason to believe that the negotiating has been going on through that cellular phone?
We haven't the vaguest idea, Hugh.
I wonder.
Al Cowling just went back to the car and got into the driver's seat.
We can see him, Jenny.
Okay.
It was the Associated Press which reported that he had held a gun to his head during the chase. It really wasn't a chase. It's been, as we said, a cavalcade, or with the police clearly not wishing to interfere with him on the ground, which may simply have indicated they knew where he was going, were simply prepared to bide their time till either he arrived somewhere in a more controlled environment, or, for that matter, the Bronco ran out of gas. But here he is now in the front driveway of his home in Brentwood, which, of course, he, in some ways, is symbolic of the great success he had in his life. And he talked about that in his letter this evening. He said, "Don't feel sorry for me. I've had a great life." Because he succeeded first as an athlete, then as a television commentator. He succeeded as a spokesman, and he succeeded as a, Al Michael talked to this point briefly, an enormously popular American figure, reminding us of how much we invest in our football or in our sports heroes.
And not only that, Peter, but a man who was very comfortable in that role. O.J. loves being O.J. And in a neighborhood, and when you look at this neighborhood, understand there are a tremendous amount of high-profile people around there as Al Cowling again has come out of the car.
That's pretty obvious what Cowling is doing. He's asking the police in the back to get down. There's a wall. You can't see it in your picture moment. There's a wall just to the left of the grass there, which marks the perimeter of the property. And there are not only police in the house itself, those who took his son away, but police around the perimeter of the wall, all of whom, or many of whom at least, some of whom have their weapons drawn.
The sun is setting here.
There's Cowling again. It's praying, or beseeching, I should say, beseeching people to please either get down or stay calm. It does perhaps signify that if O.J. Simpson feels comfortable that he's not going to be a target, he might decide to get out of this vehicle and go somewhere. And again, Cowling, you can see the wave of his hand, just a little, get down, please be calm. Now, angry, give us a break, go away. Surely must be what he's saying.
Al, Peter, when O.J. Simpson said in that letter, I've had a very good life, how old is he now?
46.
46.
And without talking about superficial matters at the moment, because we're looking at a life and death situation here, this house in Brentwood, represents so much of which he has achieved, and yet we remind ourselves and remind you that the Los Angeles Police Department District Attorney is convinced that he is the only suspect, to the best of our knowledge, and been charged with 2 counts of murder. His former wife and a friend on Sunday night at her condominium, only 2 miles from where you are watching this transpire. It's actually not O.J. Simpson's car. It's Al Cowling's car. We are told his license plate was the one they were able to trace. The psychiatrists who have been attending him for the last several days regarded him as suicidal. Everything those of us in the public know about him indicate that he's a very strong character, as we've watched over the last several days, the determination of this man on the football field. Again, it just seems perfectly clear that Cowling wants everybody to be calm. Just going to ask everybody to be quiet for a moment. We have on the phone with us as well Robert Higgins, who lives in the neighborhood and is on the ground and can see inside the van. Mr. Higgins.
Yes, how are you?
Just about as tense as you are, sir.
Oh, my Lord, this is quite the tensest.
What can you see?
Oh, what I'm looking at right now is I'm looking at the van, and I see O.J. kind of slouching down, looking very, very upset. Now, looking here, he looked very upset. I don't know what he's going to be doing.
Can you see him doing anything specific? Is he merely sitting there?
He is just sitting around, just looking like he'd be very nervous.
Can you hear anything, Mr. Higgins?
It's just too much commotion. I be in the back of a news van, so I can't really hear that good, but I can see it all. And I see O.J. I see O.J., man, and he looks scared. And I would be scared because there's cops all deep in this.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins.
And Baba Booey to y'all.
The driveway of O.J. Simpson's home in Brentwood, clearly an effort being made to have him come out of the vehicle. In the doorway of the house, his friend, Al Cowling.
Peter, by the way, just for the record, this is Al Michaels. That was a totally farcical call. Lest anybody think that was somebody who was truly across the street. That was not. He said something in code at the end that's indicative of the mentioning of the name of a certain radio talk show host.
Okay, thanks, Al.
So he was not there.
All right, we have them on every coast. Thank you very much. Not the first time nor the last time will have been had, but if the police do get their hands on O.J., he will be taken to the Los Angeles County Men's Jail, where he will be held until a preliminary hearing is held, which is normally 2 weeks after he's arraigned. You probably already know from earlier today that various blood samples from the scene of the crime match his, but other blood samples of his have been sent away for a more intense DNA analysis. There's been all sorts of talk all week about pieces of evidence here, pieces of evidence there. The district attorney said earlier this evening that while the murders had been committed with a knife, a fairly substantial knife, they did not have possession of the murder weapon.
Peter, there have been some...
Barbara, quiet for a second, please. Sorry. My apologies, but
yes.
He's coming out,
okay.
I believe. Whereas... Sorry, go ahead, please, Barbara. No, it's cowling again. Sorry, Barbara, go ahead.
There have been some reports that when he is arraigned, that he would be in the cell next to Eric Menendez, which is currently empty. This is what we had heard today, and it's just something to add to what might happen in the future.
Al Michaels and the district attorney have all said it so eloquently. This is just excruciatingly sad. Yes, indeed, tense, full of sadness. Sadness for the victims, for the children, who of course are also victims. And so sad to see a man who has represented so much to Americans through his example, some of his examples, because spousal abuse is anything but an example to be admired, and that aspect of his private behavior, and in one case his public behavior, have only recently come to light for the great majority of us who've not paid that close attention to him in latter years.
Peter,
just to people who've just joined us in case now, we are looking at a white Bronco in the driveway of O.J. Simpson's home in Brentwood, Los Angeles, which has come to a stop there several minutes ago after a 50-mile tour of the Los Angeles freeways. This vehicle, accompanied by an enormous number of police cars, police helicopters, and in one case for us, the Channel 5 KTLA TV news helicopter. And that's where they have been so far on a manhunt that's lasted more than 5 hours. Earlier today, O.J. Simpson was charged with 2 counts of murder with special circumstances. They have been driving around. Nobody quite knew where he was going. They thought he might at one point be going to his mother. There'd clearly been some speculation when he disappeared from a residence where he had been in seclusion for the last several days, last 3 days anyway, according to Al Michael, that he might even be trying to leave the country. He's with his friend Al Cowlings, who we went to school with at USC and played with in the Buffalo Bills, trying to coax him out of that car, or at least trying to create the circumstances by which he might come out of the car safely. That seems to be the clear message we're getting at the moment. Police are in the house all over the place, just over the wall on the property to the left. Police apparently traced this vehicle through a combination of factors. 2 principal ones were the license plates and a series of telephone calls. Just before O.J. Simpson was to have been arrested in the residence where he was today, he made several phone calls, one to his children, one to his mother, and one to his personal lawyer, all of this according to his lawyer, Bob Shapiro, who gave a very gripping and very lengthy news conference earlier today. Al Michaels, do you reckon, is that his son in the doorway?
I don't recognize him as his son, no. It's conceivable it was a wide-angle helicopter shot we had before, and that clearly could have been Jason Simpson in the initial shot. I did not see him in the doorway right now, though.
Thank you. In this letter, which O.J. wrote, one of 3, just before he was due to be arrested, he thanked everybody who knew him. He said he'd had a good life. He asked people not to feel sorry for him, but he said that he could not go on. This is outside the residence in Brentwood. Save the Juice, of course, one of his, well, his most definitive nickname when he played ball. And all along the route today, there has been this strange scene of people either cheering him on or perhaps just cheering the bizarreness of all this. Perhaps people just wanting to be noticed in their own right, who knows, but whether they're aware they're cheering a man who's been accused of multiple murder, whether they're cheering a man who, as we heard earlier on the news, was a role model for so many people in the country, or whether they are just simply participating in this drama. Probably all of the above.
Peter, he appears to think that maybe the police cars and the helicopter camera will just go away. Do you suppose that's in his mind?
I haven't the vaguest idea, Hugh. These are scenes we've witnessed before, of course. We've seen hostage situations before. We've seen situations of people on the edges of buildings, on the edges of bridge. But what has made this so intimate for so many people in the country is because so many of us know this guy, either in person, as so many of us do at ABC, so many of us because we've watched him over the years, either as a spokesman for Hertz or a football player or a sports commentator, and also because modern technology now has enabled us to be there for all of this time since the police first identified this vehicle several hours ago.
Of course, what we have not known and could have no way of knowing is the difference between the public man with that gentle face and that, you know, that lovely demeanor and the private turmoil of this man and what has been described by their friends as a passionate, tumultuous relationship. And it's very hard to reconcile the two parts of this man, the love that everyone feels opposite so many of these things that we don't know, or heard that there had been a beating up incident some years ago, but then we never heard anything else. And so this comes as such a shock to most people who have no idea of what the emotional history was.
Nicole Brown Simpson, 35, Ronald Goldman, 25, brutal murder with a knife on Sunday night. And this man, who we all know so well, the man charged with their murders. Not just to fill up time by any means, but let me, as we're watching this, read a little bit to you from the letter read by his friend Robert Kardashian earlier, saying that O.J. Simpson wrote it today, to whom it may concern. First, everyone understand, I have nothing to do with Nicole's murder. I loved her. I always have, and I always will. If we had a problem, it's because I loved her so much. Recently, we came to the understanding that for now, we were not right for each other. At least for now. Despite our love, we were different, and that's why we mutually agreed to go our separate ways. These are O.J. Simpson's words. It was tough splitting for a second time, but we both knew it was for the best. Inside, I had no doubt that in the future we would be close friends or more. Unlike what has been written in the press, Nicole and I had a great relationship for most of our lives together. Like all long-term relationships, we had a few downs and ups. In the driveway of his Brentwood home, O.J. Simpson sits alone in a vehicle, perhaps with a weapon. He goes on here, in a reference to what Barbara has been talking about, the charge of wife abuse in 1989, O.J. Simpson's words, I took the heat New Year's 1989 because that's what I was supposed to do. I did not plead no contest for any other reason but to protect our privacy, and was advised it would end the press hype. I don't want to belabor knocking the press, but I can't believe what is being said. Most of it is totally made up. I know you have a job to do, but as a last wish, please, please, please leave my children in peace. Their lives will be tough enough.
Peter, the children we have heard, and I said this a little earlier, are with and will be living with Nicole Simpson's parents.
The letter continues, and by the way, all of the picture here you're seeing now is being done by Channel 5 in Los Angeles. That's their helicopter, and that is their insert they're putting in of the crowd. A.J. Simpson continues in this letter today. I want to send my love and thanks to all my friends. I'm sorry I can't name every one of you. Especially AC Man, thanks for being in my life. The support and friendship I received from so many. Wayne Hughes, Louis Marks, Fred Olson, Mark Packer, Bender, Bobby Kardashian. I wish we'd spent more time together in recent years. My golfing buddies, Haas, Alan Hostin, Mike, Craig, Bender, Weiler, Sandy, J. Donnie. Thanks for the fun. All my teammates over the years. Reggie, you were the soul of my pro career. Ahmed, I never stopped being proud of you. Marcus, you've got a great lady in Catherine. Don't mess it up. Bobby Chandler, thanks for always being there. Skip and Kathy, I love you guys. Without you, I never would have made it through this far. Marguerite, his first wife, thanks for the early years. We had some fun. Paula, what can I say? You were special. I'm sorry. We're not going to have our chance.
I'm getting something in my ear.
God brought you to me. I now see, as I leave you, you'll be in my thoughts.
Okay.
I think of my life and feel I've done most of the right things, so why do I end up like this? I can't go on. No matter what the outcome, people will look and point. I can't take that. I can't subject my children to that. This way, they can move on and go on with their lives. Please, if I have done anything worthwhile in my life, let my kids live in peace from you, the press. I've had a good life. I'm proud of how I lived. My mama taught me to do unto others. I treated people the way I wanted to be treated. I've always tried to be up and helpful. So why is this happening? I'm sorry for the Goldman family. O.J. writes, I know how much it hurts. Nicole and I had a good life together. All this press talk about a rocky relationship was no more than what every long-term relationship experiences. All her friends will confirm that I've been totally loving and understanding of what she has been going through. And he comes to the end of this letter, which was read earlier tonight. At times, I felt like a battered husband or boyfriend, but I loved her. Make that clear to everyone. And I would take whatever it took to make it work. Don't feel sorry for me. I've had a great life, great friends. Please think of the real O.J. and not this lost person. Thanks for making my life special. I hope I helped yours. Peace and love, O.J.
Peter, this is Al. Just as a point of information here, because he mentioned a few people by their first names and initials. In the letter, AC is Al Cowlings, who is with him now. Reggie would be Reggie McKenzie, who was an offensive guard with Buffalo. The Marcus he refers to is Marcus Allen, now of Kansas City, and his longtime buddy and fellow SC alumnus. And Paula is a woman friend of OJ's who he has been seeing for a number of months. And he and Nicole, of course, were divorced in 1992, and that is who Paula is. I find it interesting, Peter. I spoke with OJ on a cellular phone briefly yesterday, and the first thing he said was, I have to get out of the media business. So clearly, as an inveterate television watcher through this process and this ordeal, he has been watching a lot of television and reading the newspapers as well. And he's very, very bitter.
He said that you should get out of the television business, or he had to?
No, he said, I have to get out, meaning him, O.J. I have to get out of the media business. He sounded, by the way, extremely despondent and very sedated.
Well, he has been for the last couple of days under heavy sedation, heavy medication, extremely despondent, suicidal in the view of his doctors and of his lawyer. Al, the light is fading there, am I right?
Yes, it is. Peter, it's sunset in Los Angeles.
Peter, this is Judy. West Los Angeles police have been placed on tactical alert, and the reason for that, we're told, is crowd control. Apparently, this spectacle, and I guess that's what we should call it, has attracted huge crowds, and they are putting out extra officers to deal with that. Also, in crime broadcasts to officers on their tactical radio frequencies, the LAPD is warning that Simpson should be considered armed and dangerous. So I would guess that means he's armed.
Oh. Well, the crowd outside the house is growing large. We've had a couple of glimpses of it up until now. And you have, Judy, used, again, as you so often do, precisely the correct word. This is spectacle, sad spectacle, certainly, but spectacle.
He may be waiting for the dark. I don't. That's obviously a guess, a speculation, but there's something calming about the dark, and it could be a better time to negotiate an end to this, although it'll be more difficult for us to see.
It was interesting to hear his lawyer say earlier today that they were never concerned that he might run. And when they disappeared from the residence, do you know precisely, Al, where it was that he was staying? And he was in the San Fernando Valley in a very large house, it's described.
He was at the home of a friend in the San Fernando Valley. Yes, he was, Peter.
And a very large house. Apparently the doctors were upstairs at the time when the Los Angeles police had actually arrived to arrest him because the LAPD had been frustrated that the agreement they had made with his lawyer, Bob Shapiro, and he had not been fulfilled. He was supposed to have given himself up at 11 o'clock this morning, Los Angeles time, and then it became 12 o'clock, and the LAPD sent out a black and white car to get him. The police officers were apparently very polite, and in that very narrow space of time, he and Al Cowlings disappeared. But they were never concerned that he might run. The doctors and the lawyer were upstairs having a consultation primarily about how they might accompany him down to police headquarters because they were at that point so profoundly worried about the suicidal nature of him.
Peter, I have to assume that the LA Police Department had to have known his whereabouts. He was there for almost 72 hours, and I do know that he was shepherded off his property out of the view of the media, and there is a way to do that, onto an adjacent property and onto an adjacent street, and that's how he was removed on Tuesday.
Well, Al Cowling continues to try to make an arrangement, I suppose, is the best terminology. Judy Muller, I must say we can hear you making the phone call. It continues to try to make an arrangement for him to get out.
Yes.
This is clearly the last person he trusts. They grew up together in a San Francisco housing project. It was Cowling on Thursday's funeral for Nicole Simpson, who was really the gatekeeper who let in people who were familiar and who did not. They grew up in the project. Yes, Judy?
We just heard from a producer, one of our producers who's outside the compound with a camera crew, and he said the crowd is just growing enormous, a few hundred people now right outside the house, and the police are moving in to try to control that. But he said people have from everywhere, all over the city, and all races, and a lot of them holding up signs that are supportive of O.J.
Just a slight guidance for you, Judy. Every time you go off and make a phone call, they forget to close your microphone, so.
Peter, not only is the light fading there, but I'm thinking about the gas gauge on that helicopter.
Yes, I have been as well, Hugh.
I just wonder how long they'll be up there.
He's talking to him. He doesn't hear him. You do hear him. Okay.
Who's talking to him? Who's talking to him?
Keep talking.
A little after 8:30 now in Los Angeles time,
Peter. I hear Peter.
as Al Collings tries to make an arrangement by which O.J. Simpson, 46 years old, widely regarded by his doctors and by his lawyers as suicidal, by the police as armed and dangerous, continues to sit there in this white Bronco, charged with 2 counts of murder, and convincing much of the world earlier this evening that it was over for him, that he had nowhere to go, that he could not go on under these circumstances.